All right. Hello, hello. Welcome, Keyonni.
What's up?
It is great to have you. I'm going to make sure that we're streaming live and then everything is good in my group before we dive right in. And if you guys are watching this wherever, if you're joining live, type live so we know you're here. Yep, we are good to go. Yay. So let us know if you're here. Say hi. And if you're watching the replay, type replay. So I am excited to have a guest here with me today, Keyonni Adams, and she's a physical therapist. Quick backstory: we actually connected online because a lot of the stuff she was sharing, which we'll talk about today, was about being a good coach and helping your clients modify their training program in a way that supports their goals and keeps them going toward their fitness goals despite things like an injury. And what really spoke to me was, when you said the bad coaches are the ones who don't know what they're doing. They're just totally omitting these exercises. And it kind of made me think like there's so many wrong things happening right now in the industry, and we are aligned with the right things. So that's why I'm excited to have you. And I would love if you could introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and who you help.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Keyonni Adams. I'm a physical therapist and a strength coach. And to keep it short, essentially, I help lifters overcome injuries, aches, and pains without having to completely sideline themselves from the gym. And then I also help women learn how to lift weights safely and not feel like they have to spend a ton of time in the gym doing cardio.
I love that. It's all about the lifting. And do you work with clients in person only?
No, I do both online and in person. I do still treat in a sports rehab clinic. So I do a ton of different things with like post-operative cases, women trying to just get back into the gym after taking time off, a ton of different things. So I do both in person and online.
Yeah, that was my next question. So in your clinic, right, as a physical therapist, what are the most common joint problems or overall injuries you see people coming in with?
I'll give you my top three that I see. I would say knee pain, whether it's osteoarthritis, generalized knee pain that doesn't really mean you have a tear or a specific structural injury. And then a ton of post-operative cases like total knee replacements, meniscus repairs, ACL reconstructions. That's mainly for the knee. And then for the next one will be shoulder pain. So some people would say they have a labral tear, rotator cuff tendonitis, biceps tendonitis, generalized shoulder pain. And then the third one I would say is back pain.
Yeah. Okay. So three big ones. And I
Yep.
can imagine there's a number of different causes. But what, in your opinion, why are so many people dealing with each of these issues?
I would say it's a combination of different factors. Obviously, everybody's situation is a little different, but I think a lot of the cases that I see come from people like the people that I work with identify as somebody who has been active in the past. I know I can think of like me, for example. I identify as somebody who played sports growing up. So I'm pretty sure I think I can do more than what I actually can do. So I think I see myself in my patients sometimes as they get older. They may have been active when they were younger, but they took time off due to being a mom, things coming up, working, career, different obligations, and they try to get back into living a fit lifestyle, and they end up doing too much too soon and having poor programming, doing things that their body isn't yet prepared for. And healthcare likes to call it overuse injuries. I think it's more underprepared injuries because they didn't necessarily overuse anything. So that would be the first one, doing too much too soon. Second one would be programming, poor programming. So having training programs that aren't well rounded and aren't conducive to the person's goal. They're doing a lot of unnecessary things, or they're doing things that their body isn't yet ready for. So there's a um, certain steps that you have to take in order to get to be able to do certain movements and activities. And I think a lot of steps people are skipping, not because they're trying to rush, they just don't really know any better. And then the third one would be people who haven't really been active most of their life. And now they're getting older, they're going through inevitable changes that are related to aging. And now they're wishing that they spent time doing strength training, getting their cardiovascular endurance up. And now they're seeing the effects of it, and they're trying to start now, and they're like in their 60s, 70s. So those would be the three problems I think are the reasons why people are dealing with these things.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned those because all of them, I'm nodding my head thinking I've seen clients in each of these kind of situations. But I really like the second one that you mentioned because this is something that I think is really important to speak to. I think, especially in the context of like the folks watching here, which is kind of accelerating how you're progressing to certain lifts and then getting injured. And then what I've seen is, and you can let me know if you've kind of seen something similar, but is people will be like, well, I always get injured when I lift, or like I this lifting thing is just not for me because I start lifting and then get injured. Or they did something like CrossFit that requires a lot of skill and a lot of heavy weight, and then you're doing it really fast, and things that require skill done really fast, as you know, equal injury without proper form and all that. And then they kind of dismiss strength training as not good. But I mean, I like that you're speaking to the fact that no, you should do the right strength training, but you can't go from 0 to 100. You have to go from like, your starting point and know your progressions. So, I know you've talked about this too with the coaches that are not great or don't know what they're doing, and they're avoiding, which is also not a good thing, avoiding assigning exercises to a certain area just because that area is injured, because they don't know any better, or because I guess they have a fear of training that client. So can you speak to why it's not a good idea to avoid training an area entirely if you have an injury or pain or something?
Well, there's a couple reasons why. Number one, I will say that during our day to day, we're always like taking our shoulders through full range of motion, picking things up. You're always having to bend your knee, straighten your leg, walk, go up and down stairs, things like that. So you always want to target all of your muscle groups, even if you're not injured, right? But when you're injured, whenever you have pain, whenever you have an injury, your overall capacity decreases. So think of your body as like a gas tank, and your gas tank has 100 miles to drive when you're at full capacity. When you get injured, it goes down. Say it goes down to 90. Now you have 90 miles to drive, right? So that is what happens in any injury. But the quicker we can get you utilizing the injured area, the better you'll be able to rebuild that capacity. And I know that some injuries are going to require different healing times. But in the meantime, there's always things that you can still be training to maintain that baseline level of capacity. And then eventually, when you get to a point to use the injured area, then you have a better starting point as opposed to not doing anything. That's why when people get hospitalized or things happen, they lose a lot of their function and their strength because they're not doing anything. So the better we can be about training everything that is appropriate to train and maintaining specific like fitness adaptations, I guess, the better you will be. So for me in PT, I see people like 5 days after surgery if they had like meniscus repair, ACL reconstruction, and things like that. And we may not be able to do certain activities because of the surgery they had, and we want to protect it, but we're still getting them on the arm bike, getting them on the stationary bike, training their hip muscles, training their upper body muscles, training their core muscles, because when you do get to the point of rehab, when it's time to utilize the injured area, you don't want the other areas of your body to just start doing stuff too. So it's really important to make sure that you're training whatever you can. But I do know that sometimes if you don't have the background to modify things or know when it's appropriate to start certain things, you're not going to risk it. And you're also going to end up doing a disservice to the client. So when you avoid things, it's kind of like people don't realize that coaches are avoiding things either. I do want to say, because say if you have knee pain, you just have knee pain, you go to a boot camp class, you go to Orange Theory, and you're like, oh, I can't squat because I have knee pain. They'll have you do a completely different exercise. And as the person that's in the Orange Theory class doing the exercise, you don't notice that it's not benefiting you because you're still able to participate. But in reality, you aren't training the same muscles that a squat requires, right? So say you substitute squats for mountain climbers. Yes, I'm still participating in the class, but I'm not engaging my quads. I'm not really working my knees. So it's not the exact same thing. It's kind of like trying to bake a cake and you're you're out of flour and you use peanut butter. Like, it's two totally different things, and your outcome is going to be different. So I know that people don't realize that, but it is doing you a disservice, because eventually there is going to be a time where you need to reintegrate things back into your life. If not, your body tends to view it as dangerous, and then that's what makes your pain persistent, and it becomes a vicious cycle, and it's not good.
I really liked everything you said about having the right tools as well, like the instructor and the environment. And I think an important takeaway from what you said is like these, Fit Body Boot Camp or Orange Theory or F45, like, to the credit of the person instructing, they have like whatever, 15, 16, 20 people. And if someone says they have an injury, I'm sure that the safe thing would just be like, hey, we're not going to modify this, because the format of that class is not designed. I think that people need to understand, it's not designed to help them heal that injury in a safe way. So I think this is where having that programming that's not just like for general people with kind of general goals to get a sweat going on comes in. And I always speak to this in terms of like building muscle and actually looking sculpted and getting those results that you want. That also comes from a specific type of training. And to your point, it's also going to be specific based on the injury you have. And, it's not a matter of, hey, we can't use the knee joint at all, because blood flow is going to help to heal, and strengthening the surrounding muscles is going to help you avoid future injury, like you said. And I think that's important for people to understand, because, to your point, we're designed to move, right? Like, we're designed to keep our joints active throughout the day and in the movements we do. And from a healing perspective, it doesn't make sense to avoid them completely.
Right. And I do want to mention that although you have pain, it doesn't mean that you're not healed. A lot of times when we experience pain, it's just because you may be doing something that your body's not ready for, but also, and I'll talk about this going like later on in our talk, but we have to realize that there's a lot of different factors that's going to play into how you perform and how you feel. So stress is one, like your overall fatigue level from the week, what you're eating, those things are going to play into how you perceive pain as well. So I think without diving into exactly what's going on, it's silly to just say, hey, don't do that. And I see that a ton with coaches, doctors that aren't in sports medicine, just giving out bad advice. And, depending on who it comes from, words can be very powerful. And then that creates a cycle of fear, and people don't want to move. And then that impacts their health in different ways. So just understanding that pain is very multifactorial is important.
That is such an excellent point. And anyone watching this, a lot of people I speak with, they might have done these kind of fitness classes and things like that. And I say that because that's kind of what we're talking about, is like the general like fitness stuff people are doing, right? Self-guided, whether they're in their living room doing like Beachbody, or they're going in a gym and doing like this group class. And the truth is, like you said, it's only one facet that they're focusing on, which is that programming, getting a sweat. We don't know what that person's recovery looks like, their fitness history, if they have something that's aggravating them, of course. But I like that you said it's kind of multifaceted. So that was kind of my next question, actually, is when someone is, watching this and thinking, okay, I want to stay injury free, I want to prevent it. What would you say are the main pillars they should focus on into your 30s, or sorry, into your 40s and 50s and beyond?
I have a couple. So I would say definitely strength training, because once you get to 30, people say it goes downhill. It doesn't go downhill. I'm not 30 yet, but it doesn't go downhill, because as long as you're keeping your body like in shape and taking good care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, you'll be fine. But we can't avoid aging. So there are things that happen inevitably. So after 30, you do start to lose muscle mass every decade. And for women, that rate is a little bit quicker than men. So strength training is going to be really important, because you want to maintain your muscle mass. You want to keep your bones healthy, because if you don't, you're going to be at risk for osteoporosis, osteopenia, fractures. And I think nowadays people are living longer, and we want to be able to do things for ourselves as we get older. So simple things that we take for granted, like going up and down stairs, carrying groceries, bending over, picking up things, walking your dog. All of those things that are really easy, you could do in a blink of an eye, can easily become a task and a chore to do as you get older. So strength training helps to like allow you to be able to do those things indefinitely. So strength training is number one. Number two would be managing stress. So I don't think people realize that exercise is also stress to your body. So nowadays in 2024, economy is crazy, things are crazy. People are probably have more stress due to like politics, things like that. Anything could play into your stress level. So physical stress, like exercise, mental stress, emotional stress, all those things are going to play into how you are able to perform inside and outside of the gym. So I always tell my clients to think of their body as like a cup. Everybody wants to keep their cup full, but in this analogy, it's actually a bad thing to keep your cup full. So when your cup is full, you have a lot of stress. So say when you go to the gym and you do an hour lift and then you do HIIT, and then you may spend some time on the StairMaster, all of that stuff is going to start to put your cup into overflow. And that's when you're more likely to have pain and experience injuries. So managing your cup in terms of stress inside and outside of the gym is important, because a lot of times when people get hurt, it's not because of their form, it's not because of something specific they did, it's more so the accumulation of things inside and outside of the gym. So managing your stress over time is going to be very key, especially as we get into 40s, 50s, 60s. Then go ahead.
No, I was just going to totally agree with you. I'm loving everything you're saying. So go on.
Next one would be prepare for your activities that you want to be able to do to the day you die. And I think I got this from the book Outlive by Peter Attia. If you haven't, I think his name Peter Attia, something like that. But it's a great book. And one of the things that stuck with me and what I actually did for myself is think of 5 to 10 things you want to do until the day you die. And then you can base your training and your exercise around that, because one of two things happen when you get older when it comes to exercise. Either you stop exercising completely, so your physical activity level goes down, or you exercise, but it becomes less intentional and you don't have as many goals to train for. So I think of when I was in high school and college, I was always training for basketball. So my training was very regimented. Like I knew exactly what I was training for. But now I always have to think about like, what do I want to train for? So if you know that you want to be skiing in your 60s and you want to be playing pickleball, you want to be active, you need to prepare for that now, because when that time comes, it's going to be too late to prepare for it. So if you can think of the things that you want to be doing at that age and start preparing for it now, that'll be a good way to keep yourself injury free. That'll be a good way to be proactive about it. And then it'll also be a good way to make sure that when the time comes, you're always able to do the things you want to do. So those would be the pillars.
Yeah, all of those I completely agree with. Like each thing you were saying, I was kind of reflecting on conversations I've had. And I kind of landed on a quote that's like, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. And I think people don't realize how impactful muscle and strength is until they don't have it and wish that they had built it earlier. So, what I'm noticing is the women in their 30s that come to me, which is a lot of my clients will kind of be like mid 30s. It's typically more aesthetic early on. It's like, hey, I'm not loving what I'm seeing in the mirror and my body composition is changing. And I just really want to like look like I work out. And in the 40s, as early as that, which is not old, obviously, but if you don't have muscle and strength, people are saying things like, I'm getting like this back pain, like I'm tired from standing all day, maybe even going on meds or something like that, which is related to body composition and the amount of muscle mass as well. And then, to your point of staying active in your 50s and 60s, I thought that was such a fantastic way to think about it, because someone might just be thinking in the short term right now, right? Like if they're in their 30s, they might think, okay, well, one day I'm going to be that old, but which is not old. Again, it's just on the calendar, you're going to be at a different life stage. And I think it's cool to reflect on reverse engineering what you want that to look like. And it's a testament to how powerful it is to build the strength and build the muscle. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely important.
And okay, so I would love to know another thing, because this is something that I noticed about the content you put out. Switching gears for a second, when it comes to strength training, what are some myths that you want to put to bed once and for all?
Oh God. The one that I've been on lately is the StairMaster. I know so many women on the StairMaster, like the 30-day, 30 minutes StairMaster challenge, and they say it's gonna grow their glutes. And that's a total myth. I think that if you look into what it takes to elicit muscle growth, the StairMaster doesn't hit any of them. Number one, you need to be training with a certain intensity and pushing your muscles close to failure. And I think this gets mixed up with the StairMaster, because if you're walking up a ton of stairs, you're obviously going to feel your legs burning, but that's simply due to the chemical environment that's happening in your muscle. That's not actually because you are becoming fatigued from like pushing heavy weight and actually contracting your muscle with enough intensity, right? So that's number one. And then number two, any activity that you can do for a long duration is not going to build muscle. So that's how I like to simply explain the StairMaster myth. I think the StairMaster myth is always going to be there just because it looks intriguing and is what's being pushed on social media. But when you dive into actually what's required to build muscle, the StairMaster doesn't even make sense. And then that leads me to my second one, which is feeling a burn does not make an exercise effective. So there's plenty of times where you can do like an isolated exercise, say like a bicep curl, right? And you're going to feel your muscles really working. But you can also do a bunch of chin-ups or pull-ups that still activates your biceps, but it also engages other muscle groups, right? Bigger muscle groups. So the more muscle groups you have involved, the less you're going to feel a specific muscle. And I think people get that confused and mix up the exercise that they really feel the muscle working in for being more effective than the one that they don't. And I think that happens a lot with women with glute exercises. They'll spend a lot of time doing like cable kickbacks, fire hydrants, and things like that. And
the activation. Sorry, that just came to
mind. Yeah, the activation stuff. If you got up from your seat, if you went to the bathroom and you got up from the toilet, if you walked up and down the stairs, your glutes are activated. Like that's it. Like people may need more isolated work because those specific glute muscles are weak, because we have 3 glute muscles. We have your glute max, glute min, glute med, right? Your glute max is the one that's most active. And because we do sit a lot, the other glute muscles aren't being worked as much, so they're weaker, but they don't need to be activated. So I think people spend a lot of time that can be dedicated to more useful exercises, but they don't view those as useful exercises because it doesn't feel a certain way. But in reality, your muscles don't have to feel anyway. It's more so, are you executing it with the right form? Are you executing it with the right intensity? And are you progressing yourself over time? Those are the things you have to look for, not feeling.
I love that point. That was a good one, because what you're saying too, I just want people to take home, if anything, that the modality that you're training with needs to be specific to the outcome that you want, right? Like you're saying, if you want to heal your injury, strengthen your weak knees, weak back, like these random boot camps are not going to do it. If you want to build your glutes, these things that make you feel a burn, like walking on the StairMaster, it's not going to do it. And yeah, sorry, go on about the myths. I totally agree about that.
I just have one more. Toning with light weights and higher reps. I might hate that one more than the StairMaster one. I just don't see it as often. But that one is a myth, because what's light to you might be heavy to me, and vice versa. So to arbitrarily say use light weights and do higher reps, it doesn't necessarily make sense because it's going to change on a case-by-case basis. But also there is merit to doing lighter weights with certain exercises, and then also loading up on the more compound exercises. So knowing when to use both methodologies, I can't even talk right now, both different approaches is key. Is not one or the other, is both. And I think once you have a good training program, a good coach, you're gonna see that they include both. It's not just one or the other.
Exactly. And that's another thing too, is that is a myth. People think that it's toning because it's making you feel a burn. You're doing more reps and you're not going to build as big muscles. But number one, muscle's hard to come by. It takes a long time under the right conditions. But with high reps, like you said, sometimes it is appropriate, but it can cause more fatigue without getting the same benefit. Like you're basically going to fatigue sooner than you can actually achieve close to failure, which is what you need to get the stimulus to build muscle. So, if someone were to select the high reps from what you're saying, it shouldn't be because they're toning up. It could be that they just need to use a lighter weight for that exercise for another reason.
Right.
Yeah. And then also like the take home message here, ladies, whoever's watching this, is muscle is, you won't get a surplus of it. You will not need to tone anything down in terms of intensity to not build a surplus of muscle.
And just another one that I just thought of, toning. People have this myth of like, if you tone, you won't get big muscles. All toning is just decreasing how much body fat you have and increasing your muscle mass. And when people say, I'm just going to do cardio because I'm going to get toned, it's like you can't get toned if you don't have any muscle to show. Once you lose the fat, if you ain't got no muscle, you're not going to be toned. So toning is just a marketing term. And I think as coaches, we understand that. But sometimes I think people use the word in the wrong way and it becomes confusing to understand exactly what they want. So if you do want to tone, you have to do some sort of muscle building activity. It cannot just be cardio.
Excellent point. And when I say toned, if anyone's like, hey, you've said that, it's because I know what you mean. And it's exactly that. It's building muscle and losing the body fat. But there's no like bulking exercise and toning exercise. It's all the one. You're aiming to build muscle, and then to reveal it, you lose the fat. But if you're losing fat and not building muscle, you won't look toned. So 100%.
Yep.
And yeah, I want to see if we have any questions. That's the last thing that I wanted to see here, because
I can't see any comments on my end, but I'm pretty sure you got it.
Not yet. Yeah, because this is the myths was kind of like the main one that I really want people to drive home, because like I said, you do such a great job of busting these. So I think this is awesome. And I wanted to thank you for coming on here and sharing all your wisdom with us, Keyonni.
No problem. Thank you. I talk a lot, as you can see. I get off topic a little bit.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We're all about that. And we can go on forever and cover something else next time for sure. And in the meantime, where can we find you if we want to connect?
So you can find me on Facebook, Keyonni Adams, and then you can also find me on Instagram at Keep It Fit. So KEYP_ITFIT. I'll drop that in the comments as well. And yeah, that's where you can find me primarily.
Awesome. And then where are you taking clients or patients out of in person?
Connecticut. I'm in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Right. Okay, cool. So might be some local people. I know some of your people are here. Awesome. So we'll leave that in the comments for you guys, and we hope to see you again.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.